Magic Ballerina. Rosa and the Special Prize. Written by Darcey Bussel. Prologue. In the soft, pale light, the girl stood with her head bent and her hands held lightly in front of her. There was a moment's silence, and then the first notes of the music began. For as long as the girl could remember, music had seemed to tell her of another world, a magical, exciting world that lay far, far away. She always felt if she could just close her eyes and lose herself, then she would get there. Maybe this time. As the music swirled inside her, she swept her arms above her head, rose onto her toes and began to dance. 1. A dream come true. Rosa danced across the stage, turning with every step. Her pale blue ballet dress swirled around her as she stopped and spun on the spot. She was lost in the beautiful music, feeling like she really was a dancing water nymph. Ending her spin in a demi-plie, she held her arms up gracefully. The lights on stage were very bright and she couldn't see the faces in the audience, but she could hear the applause as it burst out. She grinned and held out her hands to the sides. The other girls on the stage ran forward and made a line with her. They were all dressed in different shades of green and blue. They curtsied together, smiling happily, and then the curtains closed. Rosa's best friend, Olivia, hugged her. Wasn't that brilliant? Rosa's eyes shone. It was! Her class had been performing a ballet at the local theater about an underwater kingdom, and she had been the main character, a water nymph called Ondine. Come on, girls! Madame Zaza, their teacher, called from the side of the stage. Off you come! As they left through the wings, Madame Zaza smiled warmly at them. That was excellent, all of you. She turned to smile at Rosa in particular. Well done. I don't think you have ever danced so well, Rosa. Rosa glowed with pride as she went downstairs to the dressing rooms with Olivia. There was a TV monitor on the wall which showed what was happening on stage. The next class were performing the Sugar Plum Fairies dance from the Nutcracker. Rosa glanced at her red ballet shoes and smiled to herself. It was amazing to think that she had actually met the real Sugar Plum Fairy. Rosa had a secret. Her red ballet shoes were magic. Sometimes they started to sparkle, and then they took her to Enchantia, a land where all the different characters from the ballets lived. Rosa had been on some brilliant adventures there. She wondered when she'd go again. Hey, Rosa! Have some of these. Looking round, Rosa saw that her friends were sharing out a big bag of sweets. Pushing the thoughts of Enchantia away, she ran over to join them. After the show, the girls piled out of the dressing rooms and into the theater foyer to meet their parents. They were all chattering excitedly. Madame Zaza had given them each a glittering hair slide as an after-show present. Rosa's was made of sparkling red jewels, and she had clipped it into her blonde hair. There's my mom and dad, said Olivia. See you tomorrow, Rosa. She ran off. Rosa caught sight of her own mom. She was talking to a slim auburn-haired lady who had a notepad in her hands. Mom! Rosa called. Rosa's mother looked around and her face lit up with a proud smile. You were wonderful, sweetheart, she said as Rosa hurried over. Rosa grinned happily. Her mom had been a fantastic ballet dancer before a car accident had left her in a wheelchair. Rosa's dream was to be a ballerina just like her one day. Rosa, this is Imogen Green, her mom went on. We used to dance together when we were younger, but now she works for the Royal Ballet School. Rosa's eyes widened as she looked at the red-haired lady. The Royal Ballet School. That was where her mom had trained. Everyone knew it was the best ballet school in the country. Hello, Rosa. Imogen smiled at her. My job is to help organize the auditions for the Royal Ballet School. I am a friend of Madame Zaza's and she told me she had some very talented young dancers in her classes. Would you be interested in auditioning? Oh, yes. Rosa exclaimed in delight. I have a list of other girls here too, said Imogen, looking down at her notepad. There was a girl called Olivia in your class and a few girls from the class above. Oh, wow. Rosa's head spun. She couldn't wait to tell everyone. Obviously this is just an audition and there's no guarantee that you would get a place at the school, Imogen went on. And if you did, it's a big decision because it would mean coming to live in London and attending boarding school. Boarding school. Rosa felt as if a bucket of water had just been dumped over her. She couldn't do that. It was just her and her mom because her dad wasn't around anymore. She couldn't leave her mom on her own to go to boarding school. She stared at Imogen in dismay. Rosa, her mom said, catching her expression. Is something wrong? I hadn't realized it would be boarding, stammered Rosa. Don't you want to board? Her mom asked in surprise. Rosa hesitated. If I say I don't want to go because it will leave Mom on her own, she'll feel really guilty. No, not really, she lied. Imogen nodded understandingly. Some girls do find the idea of boarding very difficult. And maybe you'll find that the Royal Ballet School isn't right for you, Rosa. But why don't you have a think about it? I've given the forms to your mom. If you do decide to audition, you need to send them off in the next few days. She smiled. Now, I'd better go and speak to the others. Maybe I'll see you again soon. She hurried off. Rosa swallowed. The thought of being able to dance every day, living with other girls who were mad about ballet too, taking lots and lots of different dancing classes. It sounded like heaven. But what about her mom? She couldn't leave her, could she? Rosa's mother squeezed her hand. Don't look so anxious, sweetheart. I thought you'd leap at the chance of auditioning, but of course you don't have to try for a place if you don't really want to. But I do want to. Rosa bit the words back. We'll talk about it when we get home, her mom said. Rosa nodded sadly, but inside she knew there was nothing to talk about. How could she go? She just couldn't. 2. Sparkling shoes. What do you mean, you're not going to audition? Olivia sounded shocked. Rosa had only been home about 10 minutes when the phone had rung. It had been her best friend, bubbling with excitement at the news. You have to go. Oh, just imagine if we both got in, Rosa. It would be so cool. And I heard Delphi, Lola and Suki have all been asked to audition too. Rosa didn't say anything. The thought of the others from Madame Zaza's school going to the auditions, maybe getting in, and going to the Royal Ballet School without her, made her want to cry. And if Olivia went, she wouldn't even have a best friend at Madame Zaza's anymore. You just have to audition, Olivia told her. I can't. Rosa burst out. Because. Just then her mom came into the lounge where Rosa was talking. Because I don't want to, Rosa said quickly. But why? Olivia sounded completely confused. I just don't. Rosa felt tears starting to prickle in her eyes. Look, I've got to go, she said, knowing that if she didn't get off the phone straight away she might really start to cry. I'll see you tomorrow. She pressed the off button on the phone. Rosa, can we talk about the auditions? Her mom said gently. There's something the matter, I know there is. I can't believe you don't want to go. Rosa looked at her. You don't want me to go to the Royal Ballet School, do you, Mum? You don't want me to board and be away from you? Well, I don't want you to, but... Well, then that's okay, Rosa interrupted. She could hear that her voice sounded higher than normal. Because I don't want to go either. She forced herself to smile. I'm fine about it, Mom, really. I'm not going to audition. I'm just going to my bedroom for a bit. She ran out of the lounge and along the corridor to her room. Her mom had left the leaflet about the auditions on her bed, together with her dancing clothes and red ballet shoes. Rosa slowly went over. Longing shot through her as she looked at the application form. I want to go so much, she thought. I want to audition, and that lady thought I was good enough. She reached for her ballet shoes. Whenever she was feeling really happy or really sad, she always danced. Her feet seemed to want to turn her feelings into ballet steps. She put the shoes on and, hearing the music from the show in her head, she started to dance around her bedroom. Moving forward with tiny steps, she swayed her arms one way and then the other. Her feet started to tingle. Glancing down, she saw that her ballet shoes were sparkling. Oh, wow! I'm going to Enchantia again, she thought. A swirling haze of green, blue and silvery lights surrounded her and she was lifted into the air. Her unhappiness about the auditions vanished at the thought of seeing all her friends in Enchantia again. What adventure am I going to have this time? She wondered excitedly. As the magic set her gently down, she could hear the sound of seagulls crying and of waves breaking on a beach. The silvery light cleared and Rosa saw that she was by the sea. There were rocky cliffs in front of her with jagged sides and cave openings. The waves were stormy and gray, and a cold wind was whipping through her hair. Rosa shivered and looked around. She'd never been in this part of Enchantia before. Why had the magic brought her here? Rosa! Rosa looked around to see her friend, Nutmeg, the fairy of the spices, standing at the top of the cliff, being blown about by the gusts of wind. She was dressed in a pale pink and brown tutu. Hi, Nutmeg! Rosa called. The fairy came scrambling down the cliff. She reached the bottom and ran over. Oh, this wind, it's so strong. She hugged Rosa. I'm very glad you've come, Rosa. It's freezing here, said Rosa, hugging her back. Nutmeg nodded. There's stormy weather all the time at the moment. It's because King Tristan has fallen out with King Neptune. Rain started to fall and there was a deep rumble of thunder. Quick! Let's go into one of the caves and I'll tell you the whole story. We'll get soaked if we stay out here. Rosa ran after Nutmeg to the nearest cave in the cliffs, thinking hard. She knew King Tristan was the king of Enchantia. She had met him on her previous adventures, but who was King Neptune? She didn't have time to dwell on it for long as Nutmeg had started to whisper. Try not to make too much noise when we get inside, the fairy said anxiously. Cave sprites live in the hollows of these cliffs. Cave sprites? Rosa echoed, her ballet shoes slipping on the damp rock. What are they? They're really naughty, vain creatures, said Nutmeg. They love playing tricks and annoying people. If you go into their caves and they find you, they always poke you and pinch you, and chase you out. Rosa didn't like the sound of them at all. They reached the cave. Rosa looked round anxiously, wondering